Also, a big thank you for sponsoring this week's episode of Geared Up.
That's right.
GoDaddy.com. Don't forget, GoDaddy is the world's largest domain provider. They're also a big help to small businesses as you're getting your web presence up and running.
That's right.
Andrew, I know you're a heavy user of GoDaddy.
Heavy user of GoDaddy. I have a lot of domains registered with GoDaddy. Heavy user, I don't know. But domains can be expensive.
They can.
You're getting a whole bunch of them, so we've got a little deal for you guys out there. If you're just getting started or you have new ideas, save 35% with the promo code GearedUp35 when you're checking out at GoDaddy.com.
That's right. GoDaddy, Geared Up 35, and a big thanks to them for sponsoring this week's episode of Geared Up. All right, let's get back into the show. Welcome back to Geared Up on GeekWire. I'm Todd Bishop.
I'm Andrew Edwards.
All right, we are running down all of the biggest news from Apple's Worldwide Developer Conference today.
Yep.
It was a 2.5-hour keynote. We're boiling it down here for you, talking about the highlights and what we found most interesting.
Yes, there's a lot there.
That's right. We just talked about the new HomePod and a little bit about the Amazon Prime Video coming to Apple TV.
Yes.
Now let's jump into iOS 11, which I thought was a pretty big series of news announcements.
A ton. There's a ton there. iOS is obviously their most used operating system. It's on most of their devices, over 1 billion devices. And so it's probably the one that people are paying most attention to leading into the next iPhone as well.
So lots to talk about here, starting with what I thought was the most interesting thing, by the way, the Files app. I bet you didn't think I was going to say that.
The Files app.
You
always like the weird stuff. The Files app. Okay.
The weird stuff, also known as the stuff that actually really matters underneath the hood. The Files app is going to make it so you can use your iPad almost like you use a computer.
Right.
And that's why I think it's interesting. It essentially creates a view of your files. You can drag and drop files among different apps.
Right.
I mean, I know
folders.
Right. Create folders, do all sorts of different things, just like you would do with a computer. To me, this is interesting, and the most interesting announcement out of this iOS 11 set of announcements, because it is a very practical thing that people in the short term are going to be able to do to change how they use their device.
Yeah.
It's going to make it much more like a computer, and it's going to make the iPad Pro much more of an actual potential replacement to a Mac or a PC.
Sure,
I
but
can
I
see
think
you're
there was a
skeptical,
lot
Andrew.
more. No, I don't have a problem with that Files app. I think it's a good idea, but I don't think it's the best thing that they showed about iOS
interesting,
11.
maybe not the best, but it's the most interesting and practical and short-term. You know, the short-term impact of that is that's going to have a meaningful impact on the lives of iPad
But
users.
I think the bigger picture for the iPad, at least, is all those other features as well, how they come together to make it more of a computing platform. You've got a dock now, which is very similar to the Mac. You've got the... What else? What else was there? Oh, the drag and drop between there's a whole bunch of new multitasking stuff.
Yep.
Dragging and dropping between apps now. You have a place where you can set things that you drag out, like you can like a little holder area. That is pretty cool.
They're taking on Venmo and Square Cash with the ability to do peer-to-peer payments on Apple Pay. I thought that was really interesting.
Not just that. So you can do the peer-to-peer payments from Apple Pay, and that's whether you're doing it on a watch or an iPad or an iPhone. But they're also giving you a virtual debit card in your Apple Wallet, so Apple will actually hold your funds as well. So it's not just going directly into your bank account. It'll actually you can hold your funds in Apple Pay now, which is like Apple's becoming a bank now. Yep. That's weird.
Yep. There's a Do Not Disturb feature that's going to be coming when people are driving.
Do not disturb while driving.
Yeah, which is
that's practical.
It's very practical, and it's probably going to be the way that most people notice they've got iOS 11, because it's going to say, hey, we're shutting down the phone while you're driving, and you can set it up to where only urgent messages come through.
Right.
In terms
and
of practical
auto-replies.
impact, auto-replies, that's right.
Yes.
Hey,
I like
I'm driving.
That.
Yes.
I like that. I mean, that's a problem. It's a problem that just keeps getting worse. So until we have cars that are just driving everybody around, we need a way to stop distracted driving. And this obviously isn't going to stop it completely, but it could just reduce the distractions, which is good enough for me.
Now, in terms of third-party developer tools, there were two really interesting ones that I think you're going to start to see ripple out into the app ecosystem. One is called Core ML, machine learning capabilities, the ability for apps to actually learn from your behavior, and then do things that are different. You
love that.
I do. I love it. I love how the parking app, the Maps app knows where I'm parking. I also love how Siri knows that about 6 a.m. if I wake up and I plug in my headphones, the first suggestion is NPR1. I mean, they know.
Oh, that's nice.
Like which app. I love the notion of machines anticipating your behavior based on past activity and doing that. Also, very interesting and probably the most notable thing here in terms of the future, the AR capabilities.
That was insane.
AR kit and the ability to, within your phone, place virtual objects on top of the real world. It's kind of like Microsoft HoloLens,
Right.
except inside your phone.
In your phone or your tablet.
That's right.
And the tablet might even be nicer because you have that nice big screen. And people are always like, why do you need to have cameras on your tablet? And I think they showed a good reason today. Did you see that demo where they had like it was like a war scene happening right on the table?
Video game. Yep.
That was so cool. It looked amazing.
Yeah,
it looked
absolutely.
like it was actually it was actually there. And for those of you who love Pokemon Go, now they're going to switch to AR for Pokemon Go as well. So it actually looks like the Pokemon are in the real world versus like superimposed on it.
Right, like standing on the road.
They're actually there. Yeah.
And or
it
standing.
Was cool.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. So lots to talk about in iOS 11. Was there anything else that stood out for you?
Oh my gosh, AirPlay 2.
Yeah.
The new AirPlay now, which so we talked about the HomePod earlier and how you can set them in different rooms, but any speaker that integrates AirPlay 2 into it can now be part of the whole multi-room system. So now with HomeKit, you can control multiple speakers, have them all play the same thing, have them all play different things, no matter where they are in your house. But there was a lot. There's a completely redesigned app store now, new Photos app, new live photos. Like they put a ton of stuff in there. They make it easier to get to your iMessage apps now.
Yeah, the live photos thing I liked was the ability to essentially set your keyframe.
Yes.
I run into this all the time. There's like all these hacks that I do with these third-party GIF apps to try and manipulate my live photos because you'll miss the shot.
Right.
But now Apple's actually made it part of iOS 11 where you'll be able to say, oh, she blinked right there. And if I just go back a split second, that's the version that I want. And you can set that as your keyframe. I think that's pretty cool. See, to me, I'm looking for all this practical stuff. I want it to actually have an impact on my life. The AR stuff, it's like the augmented reality. Okay, great.
That's going to have an impact on your life.
Sure, but that's far off down the road. It's going to take so long for developers to create actually compelling experiences on that stuff.
What about indoor maps?
That's a good
indoor maps when you're at an airport or at a mall or something like that.
Yep.
They can actually you open up maps, and instead of seeing your street view, you're actually seeing a map of the inside of where you are to find stuff easier. That was cool too.
That's a good one. All right, so lots to talk about in iOS 11. That is coming out in the fall as well.
Yeah, and we only talked about like 25% of the stuff. There's a lot out there.
Right. Okay, but that's going to be available for people to upgrade from their existing devices.
That's right.
In addition to what we presume will be the next iPhone.
Yeah, I believe this is going to be a 64-bit release only. So if you have an iPhone 5, 5C or earlier, you probably won't be able to upgrade. As long as you have iPhone 5S or above, then you should be able to get this.
Okay, briefly here in the minute or so we have left in this segment.
WatchOS. There was a lot here too.
Okay, we can talk about it in the next segment on the podcast, but highlights here include a new Siri watch face.
Siri watch face.
It adjusts during the day, so in the morning it might tell you, hey, here's your calendar appointments. Later in the day it might say,
here's your NPR.
Yeah, here's your sunset. It's and by the way, this machine learning stuff, this is happening in Seattle. I don't know if you know this, but they've got an engineering center here in downtown Seattle where a lot of the machine learning stuff is happening. So
that's cool.
Little local angle there on some of this stuff.
Yeah, that's great.
Other things with the Apple Watch.
They have enhanced swim tracking now. They have high intensity interval training now. You can start and stop workouts. You can change the workout you're doing, which you couldn't do before. More music on your wrist. It'll now anticipate the music that you want, and it'll just automatically put it on your watch. So if you leave your phone and you go for a run and you have your AirPods, you will have music there. The curated Apple Music playlist, they make curated playlists for everybody twice a week. Those will be automatically on your watch as well. So person-to-person payments coming to the watch as well.
You're gonna be able to bump your watch against somebody else.
You don't want to break your display. Monthly challenges.
Okay.
So you and I can be in a monthly challenge.
Ooh, let's do that.
Yeah, let's do it. Well, you need to buy an Apple Watch.
Okay. Oh yeah, that's right.
That's what you're doing. He's buying an Apple Watch, and we're gonna do a monthly challenge once WatchOS 4 comes out. But there's plenty. Toy Story watch face as well. A lot of people clapped for that one.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, we've got a lot more to talk about. We're rounding up the news, analyzing Apple's Worldwide Developer Conference. Lots of news from Apple this week. If you're listening on the radio and you want to hear more of our conversation, just go to geekwire.com, look for the podcast icon in the upper right-hand corner, and look for this episode of Geared Up. Until next time on the radio, we'll talk to you next time. I'm Todd Bishop.
I'm Andrew Edwards.
You're listening to GeekWire on Kyra Radio, 97.3 FM. Yeah. We're going to say farewell now to the radio audience. Until next time, I'm Todd Bishop.
I'm Andrew Edwards.
You're listening to Geared Up on GeekWire on Kyra Radio, 97.3 FM. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
All right. I don't know why this is still doing this.
Are you getting any kind of recording?